The sound of cardboard boxes sliding across the polished office floor echoed louder than any argument ever could. Hundreds of employees stood frozen, pretending to work while secretly watching a single father quietly place family photos, a worn coffee mug, and a tiny pair of children's sneakers into a box. Just minutes earlier, one of the richest women in Chicago had looked him in the eyes and challenged him to quit if he couldn't follow her orders. She expected fear. She expected apologies. Instead, she watched him calmly clear his desk. In that unforgettable moment, the billionaire realized she had made a mistake that money might never be able to fix. Before we continue, if you believe kindness, second chances, and standing up for what is right still matter in today's world, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring more emotional stories that inspire hope. Nathan Brooks had never imagined his life would become so fragile. 5 years earlier, he had been living an ordinary American dream in Chicago, Illinois. He loved his wife, worked hard as a senior logistics manager for one of the country's fastest-growing retail companies, and spent every free evening with his little son, Caleb. Everything changed when tragedy struck. A sudden illness took his wife within weeks, leaving Nathan to raise their 6-year-old son alone. Overnight, he became both mother and father. Every morning started before sunrise as he prepared breakfast, packed lunches, helped Caleb get dressed, and rushed him to school before driving across the city to work. Every evening was filled with homework, laundry, grocery shopping, bedtime stories, and silent tears he never allowed his son to see. Despite carrying a burden few people understood, Nathan became one of the company's most dependable employees. He never asked for special treatment. He simply worked harder than everyone else. He solved problems before they became crises, stayed late whenever possible, and quietly earned the respect of co-workers across every department. His managers often described him as the backbone of the operation. Everything changed when the company's founder retired and handed control to his daughter, Victoria Hayes. At only 38 years old, Victoria had already built a reputation as one of America's youngest billionaires. She was brilliant, fearless, and relentless. Investors admired her aggressive leadership style because profits climbed almost immediately after she took over. Employees, however, feared her unpredictable temper. She believed emotions weakened businesses. To her, every worker was replaceable. Personal struggles had no place inside corporate walls. Nathan tried to adapt. He respected authority and understood companies changed. But Victoria introduced impossible expectations. Mandatory evening meetings stretched late into the night. Weekend assignments became common. Vacation requests disappeared into silence. Parents struggled. Caregivers suffered. Yet few dared complain because jobs were becoming harder to find. Nathan managed somehow until one Friday afternoon when Caleb's school called. His son had developed a high fever and needed someone to pick him up immediately. Nathan requested permission to leave 2 hours early after completing every urgent task on his schedule. Instead of understanding, Victoria summoned him into the executive conference room. The room overlooked Chicago's skyline, but Nathan barely noticed the view. Victoria reviewed reports without looking up. She reminded him that a major client presentation was only hours away. Nathan calmly explained the situation, telling her his son had no one else. His parents had passed away years earlier, and his wife's family lived across the country. Caleb depended entirely on him. Victoria finally looked up with cold confidence. She believed business always came first. She suggested he hire someone else to handle family emergencies. Nathan quietly explained he couldn't afford full-time childcare and, more importantly, his frightened son needed his father, not a stranger. The silence grew heavy before Victoria delivered words that stunned everyone present. If work wasn't his priority, she told him, he could quit. She expected hesitation. Instead, Nathan nodded respectfully. He thanked her for the opportunity she had given him over the years. Then he walked back to his desk. Without raising his voice or showing anger, he began packing his belongings. The entire office watched. Victoria had seen employees cry, argue, beg, and threaten lawsuits. She had never seen someone simply accept losing everything with quiet dignity. Nathan carefully wrapped the framed photograph of himself holding Caleb on a beach vacation years earlier. He folded his late wife's cardigan, which had remained hanging on his office chair since the winter she passed away. Finally, he picked up the tiny sneakers Caleb had accidentally left during a company family event. Those shoes reminded him every day why he worked so hard. For the first time in years, Victoria felt something unfamiliar. Unease. Nathan walked out carrying only one cardboard box. He never looked back. The following months became the hardest season of Nathan's life. Savings disappeared quickly. Bills continued arriving. He drove for delivery services during the day while taking freelance inventory consulting jobs at night. Sleep became a luxury. Some evenings he skipped dinner so Caleb could have seconds. Yet every night he smiled during bedtime stories because his son deserved hope, not worry. Meanwhile, strange problems began appearing inside Victoria's company. Shipping delays increased. Customer complaints multiplied. Long-time clients quietly signed contracts with competitors. Departments blamed each other, but no one could identify the root cause. Nathan had spent years preventing small mistakes before they became disasters. Without him, those invisible cracks spread across the entire business. One afternoon, the board of directors requested an independent review. The results shocked everyone. Dozens of employees admitted they had stayed only because Nathan held teams together through patience and practical leadership. After he left, morale collapsed. Talented workers quietly resigned. Knowledge disappeared. Productivity fell despite expensive technology investments. Victoria sat alone reading hundreds of anonymous employee surveys. One sentence appeared repeatedly. People don't leave companies. They leave leaders who stop seeing them as human. For the first time since becoming CEO, Victoria questioned herself. Several weeks later she hired investigators to locate Nathan. They eventually found him managing operations for a small neighborhood food distribution center that supplied local shelters and food banks. The building was old. The equipment was outdated. Yet everyone there smiled. Volunteers respected him. Families thanked him. Children ran through the parking lot laughing. Nathan looked happier than he ever had inside her glass skyscraper. Victoria parked her luxury car outside and watched quietly. She saw Nathan helping an elderly volunteer unload heavy boxes before kneeling beside Caleb, now healthy and smiling, to help him tie his shoes. That simple moment broke something inside her. She finally understood success measured only by money was empty. Victoria walked inside and apologized. Not as a billionaire. Not as a CEO. Simply as another human being who had been wrong. Nathan listened respectfully without interrupting. He admitted losing his job had terrified him. There had been nights he wondered whether he would lose his apartment. Yet leaving had also reminded him that dignity mattered more than any paycheck. His son had watched everything. Nathan wanted Caleb to grow into a man who protected his values even when life became difficult. Victoria confessed she had spent years believing compassion weakened leadership because that was how she herself had been raised. Her parents taught her that emotions cost profits. She had built enormous wealth but very few meaningful relationships. Nathan forgave her. Not because she deserved it. Because carrying bitterness would only make his own heart heavier. Months later, Victoria transformed company policies. Flexible scheduling became available for parents and caregivers. Emergency family leave expanded. Managers received leadership training focused on empathy alongside performance. Employee turnover dropped dramatically. Profits slowly recovered, proving compassion and success could exist together. She offered Nathan his old position with double the salary. Nathan smiled. Then politely declined. Instead, Victoria proposed something unexpected. She offered to fully fund the nonprofit food distribution center Nathan now managed. Together they expanded its reach across Illinois, providing millions of meals to struggling families while creating jobs for single parents needing flexible schedules. What began as one painful resignation became a movement that changed thousands of lives. Years later, reporters often asked Victoria about the biggest business lesson she had ever learned. She never mentioned billion-dollar investments. She never mentioned stock prices. She simply remembered the quiet father who packed a cardboard box without fear and walked away with his integrity still intact. That single decision had taught a billionaire what true leadership actually looked like. Before we reach the end, we'd love to hear from you. Please comment below with the words, "Kindness changes lives," if you believe respect and compassion are more valuable than power and money. As Nathan watched Caleb graduate from high school years later, he realized the greatest inheritance he could ever leave his son wasn't wealth, property, or success. It was the courage to choose character over comfort, love over pride, and dignity over fear. Sometimes walking away from the wrong door is the only way God leads us toward the right one. And sometimes the greatest victories begin with nothing more than a single father quietly packing a cardboard box while the whole world watches. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share this video with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe for more emotional stories that remind us kindness, faith, and courage still have the power to change lives. Thank you for being part of this community, and may God bless you always.